Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, I'm talking with FastTrack Senior Program Manager Rachel Profitt about Dynamics 365 F&O migrations, the FastTrack program, and her team's latest big achievement, the launch of new business process guides and a guidance hub. The first editions of the guides have just launched, and Rachel talks about what it means to have business process focused implementations, how people can use the tools that they've created, how the community can contribute, and how to give feedback. This episode is sponsored by Microsoft, and it follows a Microsoft roundtable on successful AX to D365 migrations hosted by MSDW. Rachel was part of that event as well, and we'd also discuss how some of the insights shared from the panelists in that conversation relate to the FastTrack team and their future plans. All right. Well, hi, Rachel. Glad to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And so we're sort of following up a webcast that you recently participated in all about D365 migrations and what makes them successful. Wanted to get a little more context from you and perspective, and also dive into a few other exciting things that are really on your plate and on the Microsoft implementation side of the world for D365. I thought we could actually just start by a little bit of an introduction in case our listeners don't know what you do, and if you also just maybe a bit of sort of what you've been up to recently, because I've certainly been seeing you around in the community and events and activities recently, but what's new with you and your work?
Sure. So for those that don't know me, my name is Rachel Profitt. I am a senior FastTrack solution architect at Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for about 3 years, but I've been in the Dynamics 365 world and space going back to DamGuard Exaptive version 2.5 for about 21, almost 22 years now. I spent about 15 years in the partner world and about 5 years in the customer side of things. I've played a variety of different roles over the years, everything from accounting to IT to support to training, to sales and pre-sales. So I've been around the block a time or two, but I've always been passionate about training and teaching and connecting with the community. And I think to your point, Jason, I've always tried to be active in the community, and there's certainly been a lot going on lately. I think now that the pandemic has maybe settled down a little bit, it's been exciting to get back out there to some live events. So in the fall, I was able to go out for, my first in-person event. That was exciting. Been doing some virtual events. So we had Dynamics Con virtual and the Customer Success Day that happened just a few weeks back. It feels like it was just last week, but it's probably been almost a month now. Mm-hmm. Some exciting events happening there, being able to connect with customers and partners, talking about what's going on in the community. And I think there's a lot of buzz right now, like you said, and we've been doing a lot of promotions, I think, around that upgrade story and helping customers get off their on-premise solutions and migrating from, AX 2009 and 2012 up to Dynamics 365, or for customers that are still using older on-premise versions of CRM, migrating up to the Dynamics 365 versions that, move people into the cloud. And I think a lot of that is just really coming from the place where we've announced, or not announced, but the sunset of the support. It was announced years ago, but that sunset of the support has actually come to be. And I think the other big one that kind of is affecting the ERP space right now is GP, right? So GP support sunsetting is causing a lot of disruption. And so there's a lot of stuff happening, I think, in this whole technology space where people are looking to make a move to Dynamics 365. And so it was a great opportunity. We did the podcast. I had the opportunity to do the panel at Customer Success Day, and we were able to talk about a lot of great tips and tricks. For my viewers that maybe aren't familiar, every Wednesday I do a live, kind of like a podcast, but I guess it's like a video cast. But I go live with Ann Krupke, one of my colleagues here at Microsoft, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And we just do whatever's top of mind every week. On Wednesday, it's at 12:30 Mountain Time every week. And so those are recorded. You can go back and watch them on my YouTube channel. That's Dynamics 365 Unboxed is my YouTube channel. So that's been super exciting. I think the other things that I'm up to in the community, I'm on the planning committee for Dynamics Minds, which is a big event that's coming up next month, right? That's next month, I think. It's April. Yeah. So I'm like, what month is it? So it's next month, at the end of the month in May. So there's actually two events that are happening simultaneously. And I was a little sad, but I'm also excited all at the same time. So in the US, there's an event, DynamicsCon Live. I was sad that I had already committed to going to Dynamics Mind in Europe. The dates are exactly the same. So if you're US based, hopefully you're signed up and you're going to go to DynamicsCon Live. If you're Europe based, hopefully you're signed up for Dynamics Minds and you can come see me speak over in Slovenia. I'm super excited to go to Slovenia. I've never been to Slovenia, so I'm super excited about that. But I'm also super excited to connect with, all these customers and partners in, Europe. It's been a while since I've been able to travel over to Europe, and I think connecting with people over there and kind of seeing what's going on. There's a lot of exciting things happening at that conference. They've got a fifth track is kind of what they're referring to it as, where they're talking about kind of non-dynamics things. And some of those things are things that I'm very passionate about. So diversity and inclusion and accessibility. And for those of you that don't know, I found out about a year ago that and announced to the world that I'm autistic. And so I've been blogging on my blog about that journey of, what it means to be autistic, and it's Autism Awareness Month. So I've got a special speaking engagement later this month as well, where I'm going to be talking about what it means for me, what my experience has been being autistic. So there's a lot going on, and it's exciting. So
absolutely. And and just to hit back on the Dynamics Minds side of things, it's about time that there's a nice big sort of user focused conference for Dynamics customers in that part of the world. I think that had sort of disappeared, and it's something I've been working on too as part of that sort of advisory committee, just as the event sort of comes together. So I've been seeing that with you. And that's great that you're going to be there. I'll be at Dynamics Con Live, sort of that impossible choice of which event to be at or not be at, right?
Yeah. But you're right. Like I'm excited for all of our European friends, because I think, you're right. Like the events over there just kind of, especially, during the pandemic. Like I remember I was scheduled to go to the event that was in Barcelona, and that one got like rescheduled, and then it got canceled because of COVID. And then, it just never happened. And then this is the first big event, I think, right, that I've seen happening in Europe that's user focused. So I think it's super exciting. And I know, like, if you're not signed up and you're European based, check it out, go get registered. There's a really great lineup of speakers and sessions. So, definitely worth
and there certainly have been people organizing other events, but in Europe. But I would say the ones that come to mind for me are really kind of the far Western Europe, and this is certainly a little more east. So maybe it'll attract a slightly different audience locally and sort of regionally as well. Yeah, great. Well, that certainly does make this a busier season for sure, and I'm feeling it too. Well, let's just touch on the recent webcast out of all these things that you're talking about. You did take part in a webcast that MS Dynamics World hosted, and it was sort of moderated by Rick McCutcheon, a Microsoft MVP. It included you. It included one of your colleagues. It included representatives from a couple of partner organizations too. I thought the conversation was, it was right on track with a lot of the things that we want to also touch on today, which is the kind of the intersection of planning a move from on-prem ERP to Dynamics in the cloud, Dynamics 365 as sort of the future for these customers, and some of the sort of opportunities as opposed to the challenges that it entails, and that was a lot of the conversation. I thought for me, if there was one takeaway, I thought, in addition to what you had to say, I thought the partners that were on that from Sonata and from Innovate were really nicely focused on sort of the business process opportunity and the opportunity to sort of modernize. Right, that was one of the things I took away from it.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you kind of mentioned the business process opportunities. And I think, and I know I feel like I mentioned it, and I've been kind of shamelessly dropping it in a lot of things I've been talking about lately. But I think I'm super excited to kind of take it one step further and announce our new Dynamics 365 Guidance Hub. There's so much going on. And I think that this idea that in our Success by Design framework and our implementation guidance that we provide out there, we have a chapter called Process Focused Solutions. I think it's chapter 5, maybe, is the chapter in the book, if you've read it.
And this is sort of like a big 800 page or so.
Yeah, it's like an 800-page book. Light read. So super exciting things happening around this. So a couple things. This new guidance hub is going live, and the idea is that this guidance hub is your one-stop shop to find everything you need to implement Dynamics 365. And the great thing about it is that it's not specific to one product. It's across all products, and it takes a business process-centric focus. So we're doing a handful of really big things with this new guidance hub. So the first big thing that we're doing with it is the implementation guide, that 800-page book. It's beautiful. It's like that PDF, like you can flip through it. Like it's great, like if you've got like 12 hours on a Saturday to sit down and read it. But realistically, like that's not how people consume information.
Who doesn't?
So all of that content is being converted into Learn articles. And that's great for a couple reasons. One, search engine optimization. Also, like navigating through it. Like, so if you want to jump to a certain section or a certain page, it'll be a lot easier to get to what you're wanting to find. And it also creates a lot more opportunity for us to expand that content and maintain that content on a much quicker, much more robust kind of time schedule. The second exciting thing that's happening with this is the introduction of the new business process catalog and the business process guide. So the catalog and the business process guide are kind of like my baby, if you will. I've been working on this for quite a while. Our MVPs out there have given us some feedback. We've done some kind of previews with the partner architect community as well. And we've received a lot of positive feedback, and we're super excited to announce the launch of the business process catalog with all of our level 1 documentation. So that includes all 13 end-to-end business processes that we've identified, with documentation explaining what those end-to-end processes are, who the stakeholders are, what the benefits are to using Dynamics 365, and starting to translate some of that business terminology into the technology, which products you would use to support those business processes. The catalog that we created is also available for download and comes along with some guidance on how you can actually use that catalog. And that catalog has more than 1,800 rows in it right now. And we expect that to grow as we expand on our patterns. And we want our community to help us with the growth here as well. But this catalog is going to evolve over time, like I said, but we want people to be able to take this catalog and use it to define the scope of your project and understand what Dynamics 365 can and cannot do, and where we've got white space, where you might need to plug in an ISV solution, that sort of thing. And so we've got the catalog, which is like a downloadable resource. It's in an Excel format, so it's very easy to use. You can upload that into like your Azure DevOps, so you can quickly and easily manage your project once you've kind of narrowed down the business processes that are in scope for your particular project. And we're really hoping that when we combine that catalog with the guidance and documentation that goes with it, that will really be able to accelerate your deployment and your digital transformation of adopting all of these new features and functionalities. That when you're ready to implement that new module or that new feature, you can go find the information you need to quickly decide how to implement it, get the guidance you need, and use our best practices to start deploying. In a quick and easy fashion. We expect over the next 1 to 2 years that we will grow from the 40 plus articles that we published in the hub with our launch to thousands of new articles. And in the May timeframe, we're going to open this up for crowdsourcing so that the entire community can help us and contribute to this. We'll be on like a bi-weekly cadence, publishing new content internally that's sourced by our teams and content coming from the community. So it's super, super exciting. And I think it's going to be a great resource to help people adopt and implement Dynamics 365, whether that's upgrading or if you're brand new to Dynamics 365, or maybe you're already on Dynamics 365 and you're just looking to add the next module or feature.
Mm-hmm. So that's a lot. And so if you're listening to this, just to put a little bit of my observation on it here. If you're hearing this now and everything Rachel's talking about, this is live, this is available. We'll have some links to it. I don't know if there's a short link that you want to mention right this minute, but we'll certainly have links in the show notes here. And I'm sure the word will be getting out through, like you said, your other communication channels and Microsoft's blogs and announcements and so forth. So you can go out and find this now. And it's a substantial, it comes from a substantial source of existing knowledge and content, but this is a substantial project, right? This was a big lift to sort of bring all this information into a new context or a new format, right? To make this happen. And you touched on one of my main questions, which was, I can certainly understand, all the insight and experience that you and your team has in sort of putting this kind of a library of guidance together. But it will also be taking input from the community. I guess that would include both kind of user experiences and partner, or would you see this mostly coming from sort of the coming out of sort of partner best practices that they develop in working with their clients?
Yeah, I think there's certainly opportunity for both users and partners. I think we're probably likely to see more partners at first, just because they've got a little bit more experience. But we're certainly not going to discriminate and tell a user that they can't share their story and their pattern or their best practice. I think that there's a lot of knowledge out there in the community, and, there's a lot of, industries. And I think when we can share industry specific knowledge with each other, like that's another win where we can accelerate deployments. We can, advance your own industry, and there's benefit to everyone, customers, partners, and Microsoft. So I think it really comes back to like the definition of community. At the end of the day, it's this isn't about like, you're not giving away your IP. You're not you're still going to have plenty of value to add as a partner, as a customer, whatever it is you sell or do in your business. So I think that sharing your knowledge and expertise and learning from each other only makes us all better and allows us to focus on things that do add more value.
Are there any particular parts of the guides today that you think are, really dialed in already, that you might point to? As you said, it's going to evolve, and it sounds like a huge amount of additional work coming to it. But for people checking it out today, anything you would highlight?
Yeah, so like if you want to kind of see what level like 2, 3, and 4 of the catalog will look like when we get there, order to cash is what I would tell you to kind of hone in on. That's what we prototyped out. So in the order to cash area, and I think order to cash is an interesting one. I think we all know what order to cash is, right? We take orders, we accept payments. We collect the money and, record it in our ledger. And so at the most fundamental level, we understand it, but it's actually probably one of the most complex as well in terms of the technology landscape of what Microsoft offers, because we offer 7 different technologies to support the order to cash process. And when we think about the order to cash process, it's also one of the areas where there's the most variation across organizations. So whether you're selling services or you're selling tangible like products versus are you doing this in a business to business model or a business to consumer model? Or do you have brick and mortar sales? Do you have e-commerce sales? Like there's so many sales models. And like, that's not like just the 6 I've listed are not even like, it's barely the tip of the iceberg. So I think order to cash is interesting in that perspective, but the prototype that we did actually shows a business process area for monitoring customer credit and collections, and we've got patterns in there related to that. The hub will also include some better together scenarios. So we've got a really great better together scenario that I'd love to call out for you that shows the whole like lead to cash process that's using sales and commerce and supply chain management and finance together, all the way from the lead, all the way to recording it in your ledger. So that's a really cool end-to-end scenario with some videos in it. So definitely check that one out. And then I think the other one that I might call out maybe is and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's there's a pattern that we published that's called, trying to think of the exact name of it so I tell you correctly. It's called Defining Your Project Scope, I believe is the name of it. And so that one is the article that explains how to use the business process catalog, that Excel spreadsheet that you can download to define your project scope. And it even has some guidance in there on how to put a statement of work together to make sure that you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. So, and I know you asked me too, if there was any links that I wanted to share. So I've got 2 links that I want to share verbally. So the catalog itself is available at aka.ms/business process catalog. And the guidance hub can be found at learn.microsoft.com/Dynamics 365 /guidance. So that's super exciting. The other one last cool, exciting thing that I want to share is that our end-to-end business process guides include process flow diagrams, and we include process flow diagrams in all the levels of our guidance. And all of our process flow diagrams will be available for download in GitHub in our repository. So, you'll be able to actually click a button and go find the source files for those and download the source files so you can edit those process flow diagrams and make them specific to your business, which I think is super cool and exciting, and another great tool that you'll be able to use to accelerate your deployment of Dynamics 365.
One of the things that this does make me think of is in terms of how, end customers will actually use this or become hands-on with it is, I can imagine two scenarios. You can tell me if you had any particular ones that you're thinking about. But like one is, a long-term Dynamics 365 customer. Like, if you think back, I mean, there are customers now that have probably been on the platform for 4 or 5 years. If you're an earlier adopter, right? And they might, who knows? I mean, some of them I'm sure have evolved their system and their processes in that time. And there's probably plenty of others who maybe moved from AX or implemented using a certain set of assumptions and are now thinking, how can we change or how can we, update what we're doing in the system, and might be looking back at this kind of set of guides and these kinds of process models or process diagrams to see what they might do next in the evolution of their operations. And maybe doing that internally. Another that I was thinking of was, an organization planning a D365 project, and they're kind of going through some of these materials hand in hand, or side by side, I should say, with their partner, right? And sort of talking through it. Are those the kinds of scenarios you had in mind?
You hit the nail right on the head. That is exactly what I am hoping for, and what we're hoping for. And I think too, we're open to feedback. Like, what else? Like, what else do people need? Like, what did we not think of? What else would make this useful? I mean, and know that this is only the beginning. Like, we can't publish 5,000 docs articles overnight. And, it takes a village, and we hope that you'll be part of our village with us. But, be patient with us, but, be willing to help us along the way as well and give us the feedback. It's the only way we grow.
And in terms of sort of what this project means for your work, or maybe for FastTrack more broadly, is this a big change for the FastTrack team, or is this sort of a natural progression?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think it's a natural progression. I think, we're also looking at additional patterns that are more technical in nature. I think FastTrack has been very, very technically focused. And when FastTrack originally formed, it was really focused on all the super technical bits of moving to the cloud. And now I think we are shifting a little bit, but I do think it's a bit of a natural progression that we're seeing. And, we announced the implementation portal last week, at our big business applications launch. And so that's super exciting. And I think it's important to note that this is all connected. So that new implementation portal is a way for FastTrack to connect with our customers. And all of this guidance that we're creating, although it's available publicly on the Learn site, a big part of what we're doing is connecting that to your project and delivering that guidance to you at the right time in your project. So you'll expect to see the links to these specific articles at the right time in your project based on the scope and the profile that you create for your project. So we're doing a lot of work there as well to make sure that you don't have to, dig through the weeds, so to speak, to find the right information and the right content, and we're trying to deliver that right information at the right time. So I think it's a little bit of a natural progression, but there's certainly, I think it's certainly different in some ways. But I think the idea that we're really trying to practice what we preach in our implementation guide is, I think, awesome. I think hopefully other people think that as well. And that, we've always told you should take a process-focused solution, but we've never really given you, like, here's the list of processes, and here's what we think about those processes, and here's how you should implement those processes. And now we're trying to do that for you.
Just to put this back into one of the topics I wanted to call back from that, webcast that we mentioned earlier. One of the topics that came up there was assessments, and how, I guess, partners, help perform assessments in the earlier stages of planning a D365 project. Some of these resources, I guess, must fit into what you would imagine partners are going to do with assessments, right? Maybe differently than they do today.
Absolutely. Like if a partner doesn't already have a really well built out business process catalog and use that as a basis to kind of form the scope of a project that you're going to do with a customer, we would definitely strongly recommend that you start from what we're providing to you. So I think it's really important to start with that business process focus. If we just take that approach, and I know we talked about it in the implementation, if we just do a technical upgrade, and sure, it's possible we can do the technical upgrade, you're going to spend the money, but like, what value are you going to get out of that technical upgrade at the end of the day? Versus if we take that business process focus, what are the benefits? What are you looking to get out of it? Then you're going to have a story to tell and an ROI to kind of talk about at the end of it. But if you don't, you might struggle to get adoption out of just a straight technical upgrade. We talk a lot about change management. If you take that business process focus, you're going to know where you need to focus on change management. I think the business process focus can inform so many aspects of your project. It informs your testing, it informs your integrations, it informs your data migration, it informs your your change management. The list goes on. So I think it really has to be at the core, at the heart of your project.
Yeah, it informs some of your technical decisions around architecture, because, like you said,
Absolutely.
there's functional choices that could go in multiple directions, right? From different D365 apps to perhaps something custom or an ISV solution. I mean, those are big consequential decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, yeah, I think we could start to wrap it up there. I mean, this is obviously a big announcement. There's going to be a lot more, I think, for people to absorb on what all this means for either themselves as a customer, or perhaps if you're a partner and you're thinking about how you're going to be talking to your clients or prospects. This certainly the guides and the business guides and this implementation portal are all going to be, I think, pretty impactful.
Yeah. And, thanks for having me, Jason. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully people, get out there, check out the new hub and tell us what you think.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Rachel Profitt for joining. We will put some links into the show notes, including links to some of the new FastTrack business process guides information, as well as a link to a recording of the webcast we discussed today. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.